Welcome to Craig's Gun Channel. In a prior video, I covered the TEC 9 series of pistols manufactured by Intratec and released in 1985. Those pistols utilized then state-of-the-art injection molded ABS plastic frames and were chambered in 9mm. Today we're going to cover its little brother, the TEC 22. The TEC 22 was released in 1988 and used similar design concepts as the TEC 9, except instead of being in 9mm, it was chambered in .22 long rifle. In addition to being marketed as the TEC 22, it was also marketed as the Scorpion due to its appearance resembling the VZ61 Scorpion submachine gun. The TEC 22 Scorpion utilized a one-piece injection molded ABS plastic frame and receiver in conjunction with a stamped metal top cover. It features adjustable sights, ambidextrous controls, and an optional threaded barrel which utilized 1/2 by 20 threads, which is different than the standard used today on most firearms of 1/2 by 28. Something to keep in mind if you obtain one and want to use muzzle accessories. The pistols were offered with up to 30 round magazines using the Ruger 10/22 format, so magazine options are plentiful. It had a cast metal bolt and used simple stamped steel fire control parts, which allowed for it to be a fairly inexpensive gun. Most were a simple parkerized finish, however a small number were made in a rust-resistant nickel finish that they called TEC coat, which commanded a premium then and it still does today on the collector market. Accessories such as muzzle brakes, barrel shrouds, and scope rails were all available. In 1994, the assault weapons bill banned specific features such as threaded barrels, as well as the TEC 22 and Scorpion by name. So in 1995, Intratec revised the series to remove the threaded barrel option, and they rebranded the pistol as the Sport 22, selling it with 10-round magazines to comply with the law. However, the previous high-capacity magazines would still function. The design remained in production until the demise of the company in 2001. During its production run, over 109,000 of these pistols were produced, so it's not uncommon to still see them around at gun shows or in used gun counters. However, as time goes by, they're getting more and more infrequent. I recently picked this one up at a local gun show, and I wanted to share it with you. Let's take a closer look. And of course, before working on any firearm, you need to make sure it is free and clear of any ammunition. So we'll go ahead and take the magazine out. The magazine is free and clear. Pull the bolt back. And as we can see, the chamber area is free and clear. So we're free to look at the design features and controls of the Intratec TEC 22 or Scorpion. It is a single action hammer fired pistol that uses a straight blowback action. The hammer's inside the frame. Has a threaded barrel. Now the threading is 1/2 by 20 versus today's standard 1/2 by 28. So if you do have one of these and the accessory doesn't seem to want to screw on the barrel, that would be why. So you want to keep that in mind if you go to get any muzzle devices for one that you might have. It is a one-piece injection molded ABS plastic frame and receiver assembly on these pistols with a stamped sheet steel top cover. It has an ambidextrous safety. The safety is right here. S for safe. F is for fire. It has an ambidextrous charging handle or operating handle. You see on both sides there. Of course, there's the safety. The front sight is adjustable for windage. You would need to open up the top cover, and there's a screw you can loosen then to move that left or right. The rear sight is adjustable for elevation by turning that screw. There is a storage compartment in the grip, which you could simply just lift up that. There's a storage compartment there. The magazine, it has a paddle style magazine release. You would simply push forward on that and the magazine will come out. It utilizes the Ruger style or format of magazines, so anything that would fit in a Ruger 10/22 would work in the TEC 22. So we'll go ahead and take a look at disassembly. So this is our takedown latch right here. To disassemble, you would simply push in on that, and then the top cover will lift up. So basically push in, and the top cover lifts up. And on the inside here, we have our bolt assembly here. Of course, there's our operating handles. There's the takedown latch. There's the recoil spring and guide rod. The hammer and trigger assembly is inside there. So to remove the bolt assembly, you would simply just pull back on the bolt slightly, and then you could lift it up and out, and it comes out as a unit. Take a look at that in a moment. On the inside, we have our hammer here and our trigger, and this whole unit here, right here, comes out as a single unit by removing this pin. Now there's not really a real reason to take that out unless you really need to get in there and clean it. So because this is all plastic, you want to try to avoid removing pins and stuff as much as you can, because it just won't take up to repeated, taking the pins in and out. The holes will start to enlarge if you're not careful. So this is really as far as you would need to ever take this down. At this point you could clean everything. You have access to the barrel and chamber there. You have the rails that are just molded into the frame that the bolt rides on. So you'd want to clean everything out, give it a light coating of oil for corrosion prevention and for lubrication. There is the screw right there that you would loosen to adjust the front sight. Once you loosen that, it will go around to the left or right to move that front post. This is the rear latch here that latches on to this section right here on the takedown latch. Now one issue that these have, and when we take this out, when you see the shooting portion, you'll see that I ran into it as well. This is just a small stamped steel piece that comes down that makes that latch. And what happens is it gets bent. And it gets bent actually just from the action of opening and closing it. As you close it down, it pushes against this spring. Well, it tends to start to bend back. Once it bends back far enough, the recoil from firing sometimes will be enough that this will lift out of being locked in place. So really all you have to do is just bend it forward again slightly to be able to get it to where it locks back in properly. The bolt itself, we have the bolt there. There's the firing pin, runs in a channel in the bolt. There is a spring that's underneath the operating handle there. It's held in place, and that provides the spring action, the rebound spring, I should say, for the firing pin. We have our extractor right there. And so really this is as far as you would ever need to take this apart really to clean it. You would just need to wipe everything down, clean it real good. If you do need to take the firing pin out, 22 long rifle does operate, it's kind of a dirty ammo. You can remove this screw right here. Use an appropriate size Allen screw or Allen key. You can take that off. There's our spring there. And make sure you don't lose it. And then there's the firing pin. So at this point you could clean out the channel, wipe everything down real good. Reassembly is just the opposite. Put the firing pin in the channel, put the spring back in place. Now on the operating handle there's a little tab that sticks out right there. And that goes in front of the spring. And that's what the spring would then push against. So you want to make sure that the spring is pushed back. You don't want to damage the spring. And once that's in, once that's in place, simply put the screw back. And that's reinstalled. Now, to reassemble, you just open up the top cover, put the latch button into the hole in the back of the frame there, like so. Pull back on the bolt, push down, close the top latch, and we are reassembled. Quality control issues plagued Intratec, and the TEC 22 series was not an exception. They're known to be unreliable and picky about ammo selection, something I kept in mind as we headed out to the range to check this one out. And today out in the range we have the Intratec TEC 22 Scorpion. We'll go ahead and take some shots and see how it does. These are not known for being 100% reliable, so we'll just see how it does. Well, as luck would have it, we've already got a jam. Go ahead and try that again. There we go. I didn't have the magazine fully seated, so we'll go ahead and try it now. Oh, that's better. Magazine doesn't want to stay seated in there. The top cover opened itself. That's interesting. So far it is living up to expectations. That really is about all this thing is good for. It's interesting, the top cover keeps trying to disengage itself, so I'll have to take a look at that and see what's going on, then we'll be right back. Okay, I went ahead and took a look at the latch on the top cover. It looks like it had gotten bent a little bit. It's just stamped sheet metal, so I went ahead and rebent it into position, so it seems to lock up a little bit better now. So we'll go ahead and try it out and see how it does. And it have a failure to eject in here. Oh yeah, it was a failure to fire. Let's take a look. Well. Overall, it doesn't shoot too bad. It's awkward to shoot. It's very front heavy, as you would imagine from just the design of it. There isn't really a good way to hold the front because you can't put any real pressure on the magazine or it will disengage. The trigger is a stamped steel piece, and it actually kind of hurts your finger a little bit. There's some trigger slap on it. So we'll go ahead and load up another magazine and keep doing some shooting and see how it does. Just gonna try the other mag.
Yep. See if that works for me.
There we go. At the range, we encountered several issues including failure to fire, failure to eject, and failure to feed. However, to be fair, most of the problems we encountered were driven by one specific magazine. The design requires that the magazines fit precisely to lock in and function reliably, so even small differences from magazine to magazine can result in performance issues. After the range session, I compared the two magazines we were using, and there is a very slight difference in the front post, which, while minor, caused the magazine to not stay seated in place or lock up consistently. That small amount of play caused most of the feeding and reliability issues that we encountered. For the most part, the pistol functioned okay with the other magazine. The issue of the top cover popping up is also fairly common and is the result of the latch section being weak and easily bent, even just from normal operation of the top cover. The sights are usable, however, even though they are adjustable, the reality is they are crude and do not lend themselves to any kind of precision shooting. The pistol itself is large at over 11 inches long, however the barrel is just over 4 inches, so you get minimal performance out of the .22 long rifle ammo it uses. So what is this pistol good for? The reality is the only thing it's good for is just for fun. When they run, they're a lot of fun, but they're just as equally frustrating. Would I buy one again? Well, to be honest, this is my third one. I've bought 2 others over the years and then sold them, only to want to get another one. They serve no truly useful purpose, I just have fun shooting them and think they're kinda cool, and a throwback to the 80s when I was just getting into shooting, and that's a good enough reason for me. One point of caution on these pistols if you want to obtain one. There was a recall on the early pistols as flawed parts could cause the trigger assembly to not function properly, resulting in runaway full auto fire. Serial number ranges 100 to 20,033 and 27,001 to 27,222 were subject to this recall. Corrected guns should have an indentation with an R affixed inside the front side under the cover access screw. If you have one in that range and it's not so marked, it may be dangerous to operate. Keep in mind, it is kind of hard to see that R that's in there. It's stamped into the plastic frame and over time can be obliterated. I hope that this information is of value, and if you liked the video, I would ask that you hit the like button and subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to continue to see more like it. I value your comments and feedback, and as always, until next week, stay safe.